Welcome everyone. In this video, we are going to be diving into some sleeper picks for the Great League. Now, we only had one full week of Great League when the season dropped, so that means there's still room to discover some nice, strong, and effective sleeper picks that you may find that could core break some of the more common Great League teams. So that's what we're going to do today. Again, the meta's still developing as we only had 1 week. So I've dug into the meta a little bit. And we're going to break down and dive into some uncommon Pokemon, very strong Pokemon, but often overlooked Pokemon that can absolutely put in work in the Great League. So without further ado, let's dive right in. All right, guys, kicking things off, we've got none other than Serperior. Would you have guessed? This Pokemon actually is quite good in the meta right now, but a lot of people either don't think about it or, they might be nervous because it doesn't necessarily have the steel coverage, doesn't have a fire type move or a ground type move. But guys, I'm here to tell you, Serperior is definitely worth considering because first, let's start with the stat product. It is over 2,000. It's 2,026. That's a very, very, very good stat product. It is quite bulky. Not to mention, it has Frenzy Plant, guys. So Frenzy Plant, although resisted up against the steel types in the meta, puts in work, guys, and we're going to look at that. So bulk and that community day move. This Pokemon's also widely accessible because, again, it has had a community day. So I would highly encourage you to consider this Pokemon here. But let's dive into these matchups here. So in the twos, now I like Serperior. I think it's best suited as a closer. You can certainly lead with it as well, as it can be a very solid generalist in the meta, but I do prefer it as a closer. But looking at the twos here, we are looking at a 54.5% win rate, guys, almost 55% win rate in the twos. That's because Aerial Ace got a buff, so that is now the preferred coverage move on Serperior. We used to run Leaf Tornado on it, which made it very, very one-dimensional. But with Aerial Ace, gives us excellent bait potential as the pacing was buffed on Aerial Ace. So let's look at these matchups here. This thing has solid victories over Diggersby, which we have seen on the rise. Of course, we dominate those water types like Azu and Lantern. If that wasn't a reason enough to run this thing, I don't know what else would be. But let's dive a little deeper. We're beating Sableye in the twos. Frostlass in the twos. Hello, guys. This thing is a monster. And we don't get Medi in the twos, but that does change in the ones. But we're also getting Lickitung in the twos. We're getting Basti in the twos, Pelipper in the twos. These are a lot of very common Pokemon that we see in this season of Go Battle League. So that's the twos. Let's look at the ones here. Again, we're maintaining that same win rate even in the ones. So, of course, we get all those water types. We're still maintaining Diggersby. That is because it's recommended that Diggersby not run Fire Punch. But those Frenzy Plants absolutely run right through Diggersby, I do believe, even with Fire Punch. But let's look at it here. We pick up Medi running both potential move sets in the ones. That is huge, guys, because even if you lead with it, you can rest assured that you will win the ones if you stay in and play out the ones with a Medicham. That's the power of Serperior in this meta. And let me run back to the twos real quick because what really caught my eye was the Registeel matchup here. So let me put that back on. Let's look at Reggie here in the twos. Look at that, guys. We have a narrow victory over Registeel in the twos. That is absolutely insane, and that just goes to show how good Serperior is, of course, with its Community Day move of Frenzy Plant. So that being that narrow, that would really come down to IVs. But again, a lot of us played that Calm Day, and a lot of us do have a good PvP Serperior, I would imagine. I would hope, because this Pokemon is definitely a big-time sleeper pick. It's a Pokemon that I experimented with myself at the very, very beginning of the season. I think like day one. I did really well, so I threw together a team and I was running Superior a little bit, and my goodness, I was very much impressed. So this is a Pokemon that we will see featured on the channel. We've got some suggested pairings with it here as well. So yeah, definitely a sleeper pick and definitely one that gets my stamp of approval once the Great League resets tomorrow at the time of recording this video. So that's Superior. Oh, and by the way, in case you were wondering, this should come as no surprise to a lot of us that are always on PvPoke, but it is an amazing closer as well in the zeros. You can play out the zeros and win 60%, win up against 60% of the meta, by the way. So, yeah, Superior is absolutely amazing in the meta. And yeah, so again, it does get my seal of approval. And with all that said, that is Superior. Let's dive into another very strong sleeper pick. All right, guys, up next, we've got Cresselia, another sleeper pick. We don't see it as often as I would like to, and I understand why. It's relatively challenging to get a hold of one, but it was recently available, so I really do hope a lot of you can perhaps trade and get a decent Cresselia for the Great League, because there is no better time to run Cresselia in the Great League than right now. The reason why is because Medicham and Azumarill are the two most commonly run Pokemon generally on the same team, and Cresselia addresses those two quite well as Medi and Lantern. So yeah, Cresselia, a sleeper pick for sure. Even those of us that have a Cresselia very seldom run it. So again, I want to bring a little bit of awareness because this Pokemon very, very good right now. So we're looking at the twos. We're looking at a 45.5% win rate. I generally like to see a 50% win rate or higher, but that's understandable because it does have Grass Knot, which it can get to at a reasonable rate, but I wouldn't consider Grass Knot a true bait move. So that's why we're seeing that in the twos, less than a 50% win rate. And that might be alarming to some, but let's dive a little deeper, guys. So in the twos, we are beating those water types with Legacy Grass Knot, of course. That's a beautiful win over Azumarill. We're also handling Diggersby in the twos. Again, another Pokemon that has seen quite a bit of usage with the new move Scorching Sands. We dominate Medi, guys. If there was ever any reason to run Cresselia, it is absolutely to counter Medicham. It is all over the place. Understandably so, it's quite powerful. Same goes for Lantern, guys. So, Medi, Lantern, Azumarill. We also get Deoxys, Carbink. If you see Carbink on the rise, Cresselia, also a very good answer. And we're picking up Gligar. It's a very narrow margin, but we do pick up Gligar nonetheless in the twos. So, and of course, we're going to be losing to the steel types pretty hard because we don't have any steel coverage, but that's where solid team building comes in, excuse me. Let's look at the ones, and now we see a difference here. Now we're talking. We're almost at a 57% win rate in the ones. That is fantastic. We still maintain all those water types, of course, with Legacy Grass Knot. We're still maintaining Medicham, Lantern. What are we picking up here? Let's see. We are doing even better up against Gligar in the ones, but we pick up Victory Bell in the ones. That's amazing. What else do we pick up here in the ones? So Victory Bell looks to be the biggest one that stands out. Also picking up Dunsparce. A lot of people do run that to core break a lot of the very common teams that we often see. So doing a lot better in the ones as well. Let's have a quick peek at the zeros. I do imagine it's doing better. It is. So Cresselia in the zeros and ones, fantastic. It can hold its own in the twos as well. So yeah, another Pokemon here, and we do have some suggested pairings with it. I do tend to like it in the back. I think it has the strongest play in the back where you can sort of tuck it away from those steel types, but on the lead, as long as you have a solid team behind it in the back, it can put in work, especially with the ever so common Medicham lead. My only concern with it is Alolan Sandslash. That's also a very common lead, which is why I generally would prefer to tuck it in the back, but you can lead with it as well with a very strong team in the back to address Alolan Sandslash and all other steel types for that matter. So Cresselia, again, another very, very, very strong sleeper pick that I think we should all seriously consider moving forward with Season 16. Very strong coverage up against the top tier meta that we have been seeing thus far. So yeah, Cresselia gets my stamp of approval for sure as a very strong sleeper pick. And with all that said, let's dive into another very strong sleeper pick. All right, guys, and we now make our way to yet another sleeper pick. Good old Vigoroth, guys. Yeah, when I was diving deep into the meta here in preparation for this video, I was actually surprised at how well Vigoroth can do, particularly on the lead. That is the only spot on a team that I would recommend it. It's going to be strongest on the lead, guys. So, and by the way, in case you're unaware with stat products and all that sort of nuanced stuff for PvP, has a decent stat product, slightly below 2,000, which is generally what I look for, but it has counter and body slam, which makes up for that. So let's look at the twos here. Look at this thing in the twos, guys. Look at the twos. Holy smokes, a 59% win rate in the twos. That's, again, why I generally prefer Vigoroth as a lead. I would not recommend safe swapping or closing with it, and we'll look at why. But in the twos as a lead, look at this, guys. Its biggest use is going to be to absolutely shut down Alolan Sandslash. That's one of the most common leads. It's right up there with Medicham as a lead option. So we are shutting down A-Slash on the lead. Of course, Reggie, great steel type answer in general. Vigoroth is. We are also doing quite well up against Steelix, if you can imagine. So if you're seeing quite a bit of Steelix, more than you care to see, Vigoroth is your guy, especially on the lead. Also good for Lickitung and Diggersby, two normal types that got a buff with the Noctowl nerf. The usage on those have never been higher. So shutting down normal types like Lickitung and Diggersby on the lead is also where Vigoroth really comes in handy. Performs very well up against Lantern as well, guys. Particularly if it's running Water Gun. But you also have a very narrow victory over the more common Spark Lantern as well. Not to mention Gligar here, guys. You see that? Gligar in the twos on the lead. You can have a clean victory over. So, and that's just because the body slam spam off the charts. Few do it better than Vigoroth. So yeah, in the twos is where it shines best, but we'll look at the ones and zeros as well. And we drop off a little bit in terms of effectiveness. We drop from a 59% win rate to a 47.7, almost 48% win rate, and that's still pretty good. We're still shutting down the steel types, still shutting down Lickitung as well as Dunsparce. I don't believe we maintain Diggersby, however. We don't maintain Gligar in the ones either. So yeah, we do drop Diggersby and Gligar in the ones. That is just because they sort of outbulk Vigoroth, to be honest. And then if we look at the zeros here, we drop off even more. So we're down to less than 40% win rate in the zeros. So that's why I prefer Vigoroth as a lead, where you can shield it up. You've got a little bit of bulk in the back to where you don't particularly need shields to perform at your best in the back on your team. We do have some suggested pairings there as well. Again, I would only consider Vigoroth as a lead option. And yeah, so amazing lead Pokemon. The twos was just blew me away. I had no idea it was this effective in the twos. A 59% win rate. That's amazing. So yes, Vigoroth, another sleeper pick for Season 16, guys. And that about wraps it up for this round of sleeper picks. I do have more, and I do plan on doing more as we get into the Great League a little bit more. So this was just to get us started, get the juices flowing in terms of team building ideas. And yeah, I always have fun doing these deep dives, so I really wanted to give you guys some ideas on some sleeper picks that we don't often think about, especially in the Great League. We know what's effective, so we tend to gravitate toward that, but these are 3 very strong sleeper picks that have a lot of very strong play in Season 16 of the Great League. So guys, I had a blast. I hope you all enjoyed. As always, I thank you for watching and keep up the grind. Thank you guys.